Welcome to our last official class. It is Wednesday of week 9 in spring 2020 for Math 20. And this is our last class, but it's not really because we'll have other study sessions and we've done everything new. So this will just be an especially well-attended study session. The one on Friday is still happening. And then people have asked next week that when we had our class time, we just keep going. So that is now on the calendar. I've taken off the calendar the official take our final at this time notes. I figured we all knew that those were kind of legally there. They were part of how the class was scheduled in Express Lane, my lane for you. But no one's actually taking the final specifically at that time, so we'll just take them off our calendar to not confuse you. Somebody else asked for a 1 o'clock study session on Wednesday, so that is there also. And if there's other days or times, then let me know. Last weekend, again, it happened that 2 different students just kind of met with me for half an hour on Zoom, got straightened out about what they needed to do, and that was great. But if you can give me advance notice and I put it on the calendar and send out an email, then it might be even more efficient to have more students come and have the same problems help many people. If it's something that's personal, just your grades or things like that, then just say, you know, that can be impromptu. That doesn't have to, there's no advantage just giving me notice about that because we don't want to invite other people to hear your grades. So anyone want more things on the calendar now?
Are you going to have another study session on Saturday?
If you need.
Yeah, can I would like to meet with you on Saturday.
Oh, okay. What time works for you and for other people? If you don't have a mic that works and you're here in Zoom, just type in chat. That can work too. What time on Saturday?
Probably like 10 o'clock.
Here, no agreement or disagreement. 10 o'clock Saturday is okay?
I'll also do Saturday at 10 o'clock with Crystal.
Okay. So Saturday, 10 a.m. study session.
I won't need to go for the whole study session, but there's a few things I need to touch on.
Yep. I expect the more the term draws to a close, the less it will be everyone paying attention the whole time to everything and more just sort of, you know, there's 4 people there, 3 of them care about this problem, 1 of them leaves, then we go to the next problem and 2 of the 3 take notes, and then the last thing is just those 2 people who are still here and so on. So people will get what they need and fade away. That is normal. Okay, also for the ones that we're still having, I might not wait around an entire hour. So if you show up at 4 o'clock on Friday or 10:30 on Saturday and no one is here, that just means that people were here and they got their questions answered and it didn't take half an hour, and I'm not going to just sit here looking at my webcam. So you can always send me an email saying, you know, I was delayed, you know, had kid problems, had to work late, whatever. Can you get back on Zoom? And I can say, sure. Okay, another announcement is achievements. And I wanted to show off someone, Imogen. So this was a good example of how to get lots of stars. You can see Imogen has 44 achievement stars without a lot of real life time being sucked away. And not all of these will work for everyone, but let's see what happens. So homework is just sort of the backbone of learning the math. You have to do a lot of homework, and you can see that whoever Imogen is has done 10 of the 12, and that's all you need. You don't have to do all 12. So keep working on homeworks until you have 10 of 12 stars. Right up above it, neatly written work. Since Imogen is going for an A, then there are these 2 here. As for the being a mather sections, then asking one question during class, that's easy. If you don't have that one yet, ask a question today. Ask 11 questions, might be a little late for that. Come to a study session, that's easy. 3 study groups, that might not be easy for everyone depending on how isolated you are at home. But you could always summarize the first chapter of a book, that's quick, or write about one of the apps or podcasts in the class library page, that's quick. Share some learning you've done. Unless you are living all by yourself, then that's probably a very easy one in just a few minutes to get a check for that. Same with report on being more capable at getting help when it's needed. That's something you can just send me a quick email. This person used the tutor once. If you haven't done that, that's an easy thing to do. It doesn't take very many minutes to schedule something and meet with a tutor. It doesn't even say it has to be a math tutor. Find a video, that's another one you can get done quickly. That's just a Google search for one of our topics, whichever topic is your nemesis. Work with CAR or Trio, maybe you have that already and haven't told me. If not, that might be a little awkward at this point in the term. Take a midterm. The midterm problems are the same as the final problems. So as you're taking practice finals, you might as well do one of the midterms. The midterms, once again, that you would get a star from, you go to our lecture page, and there's one for shapeshifting, there's one for mad science, and there's one for justice. And
So
these
you
are
just want us to do one of them, right?
one of them. There's only one star here for take a midterm. You can do all 3 of them if you want, but there's not much point because they are just the same random practice tests when you go to the playgrounds and gymnasia, and then here are your 3 midterms. They're just the same as these, except I have the answers and you don't. But in general, you want the answers so that you can take the test and then click the box and see how you did.
I have a question, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
If I've been working with a private tutor here at my house to help me get caught up on some of the stuff that I did miss, can I use those as study sessions also?
Sure, that sounds reasonable.
So how would I take a picture of that to satisfy that requirement?
Don't worry about the picture too much. So.
Okay, because I took a picture of us at Denny's together.
Okay, if you want to send me pictures, you can. During a normal term when it's not distance learning, then I tell people just like spread out your papers on the table, because usually this is happening in one of the hallways at LCC, right? The math building had all those big study tables out in their foyers. And you don't even have to put your faces in it if you want to be somewhat shy of the camera. But it's a little harder to do that these days.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the photos aren't as important. If you want to do a no calculator test, then that one is this. And that has some overlap with the final, but not complete. So that one isn't quite as obvious to do as the midterms that get you the star, because it is helping for the final, but not as completely helping. Turn in 5 homework assignments on time. You've probably done this. If you don't have the star yet, just nag me and say, I've turned in 5 homeworks on time. And I will say, yes, hooray, you have. After a practice test, turn in a study schedule and a plan. I figured out I need to work more on adding fractions. I will do that, tomorrow before dinner or something like that. So this is an easy star.
Hey,
Tell me when you will take 5 practice tests. So again, all you have to do is sort of figure out what your next week is like and write a sentence in an email. Attend 14 or more classes. I've tried to put the check mark for this for everyone. I spent some time looking at the attendance records since Monday. So if you've attended 14 classes or sent me an email saying I need an excused absence because of work or something, then you should have this. If you think you've attended 14 and you haven't, then let me know and I'll put the star on.
Real quick, for at least for me, I'm pretty sure I spoke to you about do the after the practice turn in one. I had showed you like my desk calendar and all that. And I noticed I didn't have that on mine when I was looking at it.
Send me an email. I'm not going to keep track of everyone right now.
Oh, sorry.
So, okay, in the green, how real math works, find an example of our math in the news. There's percentages all over the place. That should be easy. Work with someone who asked for help. If you show up at a study session, that's an easy way to get that. If not, then there's other things to do. Just beginning 2 big issues. You don't even have to finish the work. Showing me how you're setting things up on paper. Do something on the board during class. We can count that in the study sessions if you haven't done that yet. The 3-minute multiplication quiz or the representational fluency where you just draw the lines across. Those are things that only take a few minutes and can get you stars. Actually finishing big issues are more for people who are trying to get a plus in the class. These would take a little longer. So that might be a good one to skip. Teach someone else about our math topics. Unless you're living all by yourself, you could do that in a few minutes. Teach something about non-class math topics. Unless you're living by yourself, then that's something you could do in a few minutes. Teach another student about hidden curriculum. That's probably harder to do when we're as isolated as we are. Okay, so going back to this student. So Imogen has at least 2 stars in the green section and at least 5 in the blue section, and has done at least 5 homeworks and has done at least 7 homeworks. So that means the D is all done. Moving on, not only 2, but she has 4 stars in the green section and 7 in the blue section, and she's done 8 homeworks. What she hasn't done is tried taking an actual final yet. So this is normally the last thing to get checked off for these letter grade ones. For the B, she's actually has 6 stars in that green section and 8 in the blue section. She's done 9 homeworks. She has 1 star about the neatly written homework. So remember down at the very bottom, right above the topic homework is the can you show me 2 pages from homework that are neatly written. So that's part of getting a B. And again, if she gets a 60% on the final, she will get that and finish up her B. Then an A, she needs 1 more star in the How Real Math Works. I think she has 7 out of 8. She has all the ones in the blue section. She has both neatly written homeworks. She's done 10 homeworks. Doing more than 10 homeworks doesn't help you anymore. She has turned in notes for 2 subtopics. And again, we're waiting to see what her final score is. Will she get 9 more stars than she needs to get a plus after her letter grade? Maybe, maybe not. This is kind of how her week goes for the next week. So this was a sample student who picked things well, right? Of all the things we went, none of them probably took half an hour. They were all pretty quick things that you could do. So if you are aiming for a high letter grade, an A, a B, and you're feeling behind because you haven't gotten started, don't worry. We have a week and a half. There's plenty of times for you to get all these little things. It is not supposed to be a giant amount of work. It is supposed to make you feel like, there's actually more to math than homework, and I'm pretty good at all that other stuff. Questions about that? No? Okay, so hopefully this was encouraging. There are a bunch of students when we look at the list that don't have 44 achievements. They're down at like, 5 or 11, but that doesn't mean things are hopeless. That just means that they need to get organized.
And we can just send you an email with all of our achievements that we've done, listing them out in just a just a list form for you.
Yep. And the catchy names aren't things I've memorized. So if you say I've done 11 stars about being a mather, that helps me more because I don't have to figure out which one is called this isn't even my final form.
Okay.
Just say, by the way, I've turned in 5 homeworks on time. I've asked a question during class, like that. Okay, about the notes. So I want to go down and do that. If you are aiming for an A only, you need notes. And we talked a long time ago about what 8 qualities have good notes. It has not only what your instructor gave you, something from the textbook. This is the biggest stumbling block. People will often send me a picture of notes that has nothing from the textbook on it, which means that when it's time to cram for the final, or they're actually taking the final, because you can use your notes, they also have to be flipping through a textbook, which slows them down. So for the topic that is your nemesis, get the good example problem or two from the textbook and put it in your notes. So it's all there and you don't have to go anywhere else. That's the point of this. Whatever you wrote during class, of course, that's going to be there. And if there's anything in your brain about, I know how to do this, there's some other way in math class that I learned that I like better, things like that. The formatting, everyone does great. Topics clearly labeled. Don't blur together your explanation and your example problems. If there's a definition, make sure that stands out and make it readable. So someone sent me some notes the other day. They don't have their name on it, so I'll share them. So let's just look at this. It's exponents and square roots. And they're having that 1 square foot is 144 square inches because of 12 times 12. And they're having the square root of a number defined. On the next page, here's an example problem of the square root of 65. It shouldn't be 4. I'm not quite sure what that is. And then defining perfect squares. A mile is how many feet, and I'm not quite sure what that number is. So they were wondering how they needed to improve these notes. So let's together go through and figure this out. Oops, that's not notes. That's notes. Okay. So do they have something from what the instructor gave them? Yes, you're nodding, I can see. Yeah, a lot of this we recognize from the website. Do they have anything from the textbook that wasn't already on the website? I'm not sure. And it might be helpful as I am trying to grade this to just make a little arrow and say from textbook, so I know which part is from the textbook. But I'm not seeing anything that wasn't directly out of our lecture from that day. So one thing I would tell them is you need something from the textbook. Is this what the person wrote during class? Yeah, I see some of what they wrote during class here. That's easy. Is there any self-talk about how to study or some other way to do this or something? I'm not seeing that yet. So they should put some little comment about this is a quick calculator problem, or this is, something. Are their topics clearly labeled? Sure, up at the top, exponents and square roots. Their narrative and examples are apart. Yes, right? They have some examples. They have an example problem. It flows nicely. The definitions stand out almost. They have a definition here, but I can't really tell glancing at the page if this is a definition or just explaining how things work. Same over here. It doesn't look different than the example problem text. So put some box or cloud or something. Everything is neat and easy to read. Yes. Nothing on these 8 lists is that the numbers are all accurate. So the fact that the square root of 65 is not 4.225, or the square of 65 is not 4.225, I'm not quite sure what that was, but that's not part of what I'm grading right now. Does that help with what I'm looking for when you turn in notes for an A?
Yeah.
Okay. So no one is ever going to expect you to have great notes for every topic in a math class. The reason that this is needed for an A, where did it go, is so that the 1 or 2 things that are hardest for you in your next math class, your instructor knows you can actually compile together good notes where everything you need to study is in one place. Okay, is that all for announcements? We've done that. We've looked at that. I don't want to repeat yet again how we're taking a test, but just very briefly, when you're ready, I will print out a Math 20 final. I will keep a PDF copy with answers and send you a copy without answers. And then you will write out things on paper and send me photos of your paper. So when you are ready for that, let me know and we can do this. If it doesn't work well the first time, we'll try again. So don't wait till Friday of next week.
How many questions are going to be on there?
It's exactly this, right? So it is 35. And one thing we checked last class was to earn an A, you only need to get 66% on it. So we can ask ourselves, what is 66% of 35?
23.1.
Yeah.
Last week, before the weekend, I guess it would have been on Wednesday, you wanted us to go through our notebooks, or you suggested that we go through our notebooks and highlight things in a smaller area and then bring it back to class. Do you remember that?
Highlight things in a
Well,
smaller
like
area.
write our notes out in a smaller, like condense them. So
Ah, yes. Let's work on that too. Thank you.
yeah, so I've done that. Just wanted to let you know in case.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. So it's 23 point something. So to round up, your goal with the practice finals, if you're aiming for an A, is 24 problems correct. Anything beyond that is an easy way to get some extra stars for the plus. But it's a 35 problem test, and your goal is at least 24.
Wait, for the practice final?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right? There's 35 problems. You need to get 66% when you actually take the final.
Okay. And does doing the practice final count towards like one of like the little achievements in the...
No, but scheduling when you'll take 5 of them is a star.
Okay.
I don't actually care how well you do on them, because for some people they take 1 and that's all they need, and for others then they, this term everyone has open notes. In a normal term, only Math 25 students has open notes. Math 20 doesn't. But I have had Math 25 students show up with like 11 practice finals in a folder, and they just look at them as they're taking their real final. And that's fine if that's what they need. So, but yeah, how many practice finals you need to get settled and ready doesn't, I'm not going to grade that.
And also like, I know like there's no like due date really, because like the finals, but like when is it due?
When is it due? At the end of finals week, I need to submit grades.
Okay.
So like Friday of next week is
Okay.
the last chance to do things.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to go open our other Jamboard. And if you have things to do for our group notes, then let's put them here. I'll get rid of the achievements and the practice final and the lecture note page. So does someone have, I didn't get anything yet by email, but if you have things you just want me to capture off the screen, I can, or.
I can take pictures of mine and send it through email.
Oh, okay. No one has stuff immediately. Okay, so I will make a collage as people send me stuff, but not immediately. Other questions? Should I bring up a practice final? Do you have homework questions that you've brought to class? We have nothing new, so it's just whatever helps you review now that we're done with announcements.
I think seeing some of the practice final would be beneficial.
Okay. Does someone want to call out a problem number?
6.
6, okay. That's highlighted. There we go. So 6, we now know 2 ways to do. Early in the term, we would follow the hint because we haven't learned about proportions yet. And we could say that 56 yards divided by 5.8 minutes, whatever that is about 9.66 yards every minute. So how far would it go at that rate in 72 minutes? We would take that 9.66, multiply it by the 72 minutes, and get about 695 yards. And at the time, that was the best we can do. If you like now, we also have the proportion method. We could say we have 2 situations. We have 4 numbers, of which we're given 3 of them, so that's a proportion. One situation was 56 yards in 5.8 minutes. The other situation was, I don't know how many yards in 72 minutes. Remember, as we're setting up the proportion, that the same word is on top, the same word is on bottom, everything is symmetrical. We've talked about how you don't have to write every step like I am doing. Okay, so either way works. Questions on that one? No questions. Okay.
What about number 7?
Number 7. Okay. Number 7 is a great one to not make harder than it is. So this one is a unit rate. The only tricky part about unit rate is that you want the right thing on top. So the word per means divide. Are they wanting people per square mile or square mile per person?
People square mile.
People per square mile. The other could make sense, right? How much space does each person get? So logically, we could ask either, but we want people per square mile. So the people was the 594,800. Per becomes divided by, the square mile was 2.4, and whatever that is. So as long as you do it in the right order, you're pretty safe because it's only a division problem. Questions on that one?
So it wasn't a longer problem because we usually have a what and why and all that, but they gave us the numbers. So never mind. I answered my own question.
Okay. It is not a proportion. They don't give us enough numbers to make a proportion out of it. Nor is there anything about percents going on. Okay, back to this if we're done. How would you do number 8?
You would divide it, wouldn't you?
So this is another one that we've developed proportion tools for. When we first learned it, we memorized some little rule about if feet go into meters or does meters go into feet, which is the bigger one, and that tells you whether to divide or whether to multiply. A typical Math 20 student has by now forgotten those rules. I had to teach them to you so that the people that did like using them wouldn't fuss at me for not sharing them. But most of the time, people by now will do a proportion version of this because everyone loves proportions. You have 4 numbers, 3 of them they tell you what they are. So if you don't remember those rules about when to multiply or when to divide, you're obviously going to do one or the other. Then you can say, well, I know that in general, 1 meter is 3.281 feet. Keep meters on the top, keep feet on the bottom. In this case, we have 318 meters. How many feet? And it tells you whether to multiply or whether to divide. I haven't used the shortcut for proportions today, so I'll remind you about that. That if you're not going into Math 60, then you can take the 2 that have opposites and multiply, take the 1 that is opposite the y and divide by it. So in this case, we can just say what's 3.281 times 318 1. make that about equal. And we're done. So use the proportion to help you know whether you multiply or divide. If you set up the proportion right with the words on top matching and the words on bottom matching, then the rest is pretty fail-safe. If you're someone that knows the trick about comparing meters and feet and which is bigger and which is smaller, and that tells me if I divide or multiply, then you can go ahead and use that. But most people have had that flee their brain by now in the term. Okay, what's next? We should probably do a SI unit scoot thing. Should we do 10 or 11?
How about 11?
11. So if we're going from metric to metric, we could do this just like the previous problem, but it's slower. We could say that there's 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. So how many milliliters are in this many liters? And set up a proportion. But it's much faster to write out those letters for the prefixes, the killer, hobos, dance, under, dazzling, crystal mobiles, or whatever your acronym is. Say we are starting with plain liters. The U is our plain unit. We're going to milli. So that's 1, 2, 3 to the right. So in our number up here, we'll go 1, 2, 3 to the right. And we're done. Don't have to do any multiplying or dividing at all. The other prefixes that we might care about sometimes are kilo and centa. Very rarely you'll get a problem where we have to go dot, dot, and then micro. But I don't think those are on the final, actually. Let me see, are there micro anywhere? No, no micro.
Looking at number 10, then we're just going to go backwards because it's kilometers. I mean, we're going to go opposite.
As for number 10, so same thing. We're starting in plain meters again. We're going to kilometers, so 1, 2, 3 to the left. So we will go 1, 2, 3 to the left. And be done. 12, your calculator does for you. Hopefully you all have calculators with square root keys by now in the term.
Can we do 13? I forgot how to do that.
Sure. So we have the 46 and we have a 0.12. So the 46 just hangs out front. How would I say that decimal formally in a court of law? We wouldn't say 0.12 to a stenographer. We'd call it 12 hundredths. And now it's a mixed number. I'm not done though because of the annoying rule that fraction answers only count when they are reduced. So what's the thing to reduce 12 and 100 by?
2.
2 would work, but I'd have to keep going. So I'm going to jump right to 4. 4 quarters and $1. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. 4 divided by 100 is 25. And we're done.
Thank you.
If you did divide it by 2, you just have to divide by 2 again.
Wait, so why was it 4? Because they both go into.
Because if I did divide it by 2, that works great. We would get 6 over 50, and we'd just have to keep going.
Oh, okay.
So I was just trying to be a little more efficient. Did I show this class yet? The little pictograph of Math 60 is easier than Math 20?
Wait,
I'm sure I
actually?
did. So, oh, that picture went away. Okay, never mind. I can't show you that. If you look at when people pass math classes 60, they pass more. And this test is a good reason of why Math 20 is hard. It's just too much of a salad bar of separate things. Whereas in Math 60, everything builds off each other. I'm going to see, do I happen to have things in my hard drive while you pick a question to work on? No, I don't. Very strange. Enough to track down those images. What problem next?
How about number, and as you're doing these, this is the kind of information you want, showing you how we came to our answers, right?
Yes, I often write more than you need to, especially with proportions. We talked about how you don't need to write every step here.
Okay,
But if you write as much as I do, then certainly when we get to the oral exam part of your final, then there won't be much to talk about because you've written so much.
What about number 16?
I'm sorry, very soft. Which number?
Wait, no. 18. 18.
18? Okay.
I don't know if you did that one or not, but
So we could do this in two different ways. Some people love proportions and will do everything they can with a proportion.
not me.
Some people think unit analysis is a great way to do conversion rates because it works all the time, no matter what. So if you wanted to set up a proportion, it's not quite obvious because we have 13 cups in one day. So I stop reading the problem. I put cups on top so it matches. I put days on the bottom, and I keep reading, and it says gallons a year. So what numbers do I put where?
Would be per year 365.
Yeah, you could say a year is 365, and I'm just going to solve for cups. And I know I have to fiddle at the end. So y times 1 is 13 times 365. So that would get me 4,745 cups. But I want gallons. So how do I change cups into gallons? If you're not sure, try a different proportion. Say that 1 gallon is 16 cups. So how many gallons are in 4,745 cups? And I've run out of room, but you could cross multiply and solve this. You would get 4,745 divided by 16. So you could do this with two different proportions. Other people would say, I don't want to have to do multiple proportions, so I will write my thing as a fraction. And then I will use unit analysis. I need to get rid of cups. It was on the top, so we'll put it on the bottom when we multiply. And we need to get rid of days. It was on the bottom, so we'll put it on the top. So my days are gone, my cups are gone. I can go from cups to gallon. I can go from days to years. 1 gallon is 16 cups. 365 days is 1 year. There's no X shape in unit analysis. I'm multiplying fractions, so I'm going across the top and I'm going across the bottom. There are a few students that after we get to the proportion section in week 8 start trying to make X's everywhere, but there's no X's in unit analysis because there's no equal sign. The equal sign is always the center of our X. Does that make sense? So on top, we had 13 times 1 times 365. On the bottom, we had 1 times 16 times 1. And on top, we have gallons. And on bottom, we have years. So 13 times 365 divided by 16. gives me about 297. 97. Questions about either method, whichever one works best for you. You don't have to do both sides of the board.
So for the proportion way of doing it to get the answer, you said you cross multiply.
Yep, we're once again have a proportion. We'd have to cross multiply. Y times 16 is on one side. 1 times 4745 is on the other.
Okay.
You'd get the same answer. I just ran out of room. I should actually probably say that. Oops. Which next?
Can we do 23?
23. We certainly can. I want to ask once more, is there anything between where we are so far on 23, just so we're more or less doing them in order? Okay, 23.
Can we do 22 also?
22, sure. So right triangle just means it's the one that looks like a doorstop, goes straight up on one side. And let me actually draw it a little flatter. There we go. So we have 3 numbers up here. Which one is obviously the longest?
50?
The 50. And which one of the sides of the triangle is obviously the biggest?
The top?
Yeah, that kind of diagonal one, right? So part 1 of this problem is to put the longest side where it belongs. And we need that because the other 2 numbers are the ones that we're going to use in the area. The area for a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. The diagonal isn't part of this. So the reason we paid attention to which was biggest is so we'd know which number to leave out in the area formula. When we're finding the perimeter, how do we do that?
Measure all 3 sides.
Yeah, just add them up. They're all included. Nothing fancy happens. Excuse me. No square units in perimeter. It's just a distance that the ant crawls as it goes around. Any questions about 22?
Thank you.
Get your stuff together.
Okay. 23. Okay, sorry if you're hearing my family. So we have two circles, A and B. One of them has a radius of 17. And the other one has a diameter of 26. So is this a perimeter or an area problem?
Area?
Area. So if you're doing perimeter, do we like diameter or radius? We're not doing perimeter, but if we were, which one is more naturally set up for perimeter?
The 26?
The diameter, right? Perimeter was pi times the diameter. Area is pi times radius. So we want radius. So let's take the green circle and say we actually want, that's a terrible radius. Want the radius, not the diameter. So how much is my radius going to be?
This, never mind.
Is it 17?
Almost. All the way across is 26.
Oh, 13?
13. So halfway across is 13. Everyone happy with my setup?
How did you know that was 13?
Because it's half of 26. So I have one part here and one part here. So there's two radius to make a diameter. Good questions. Okay, everyone ready now? More questions? Okay, then the area of a circle is pi times radius times radius. If you're a fancy person and wants exponents, you could write it radius squared. So whatever that is. So it's about 908 square inches. And for this one, about 531 square inches. Finally, so it asks us by how much. Any questions about that one?
How did you get the 531?
Pi times 13 times 13, unless I did something wrong.
Yep.
Yep. Do you need help with the pi key on your calculator?
No, I just got it.
Okay. Which next?
Can we do 26?
26, yes. I want to do 24 first, though, just because let's do the easy one before the hard one. So this is what we like, where we have something stuck onto our letter, p times 2. So the opposite is divided by 2. And we'd get, what, 45, and one more is 46. So that's the format we like. We have a letter, and we multiply it by something. So the one you asked about doesn't initially look like that. We have the simple interest formula that says that the simple interest is principal times rate times time. And the time is in years. And the rate is per year. Does that ring a bell? We didn't spend too much time on this. So in this case, we need to figure out what goes in these pots. We know what the interest is. The loan was $569. When she writes a check for $578, the extra must be the interest. So $1 brings it up to 70, and then 873 more, so 973. Everyone okay about the post-dated check? There might be someone who wasn't here this class day and I just lost them.
Yeah, I don't think I was there.
Okay. So what's happening is she goes to the payday loan store because she's going to get paid in a month, but she just had her car break down today or something like that. So she needs a loan. And she writes a check that's post-dated. So 26 days from now, this payday loan place can cash her check. And she writes the check as more than her loan so that it includes the interest also. So the extra amount on the check is how much interest the person at the store said that she had to pay. So she's going to pay $9.73 for the privilege of having this loan so she can get her car fixed and not have to miss work and lose her job.
Okay. So, okay, is the problem's not done? Okay.
No, problem is not done.
Okay.
So then we have the rate, and then the time in years is 26 over 365. It's a fraction of a year. Now we want it to look like this. Something is our letter times something. And we're not there yet. So we'll keep going. 973. Now I'm allowed to change the order when I multiply things. So I can write this as R times 569. And we know that we can simplify a fraction as top divided by bottom. That makes it easier on the calculator. Everyone okay going from this line to that line? Because we did two things. We swapped these two and we wrote the fraction as a division. Actually fit that better on the page. So now all of this I can make one number. So whatever that is, 569 times 26 divided by 365. And now I'm good to go because I have what I want. I have a number is a letter times a number. So 973 divided by previous answer key. So 0.24, which will be 24%. This is one of the hardest problems on the test, by the way. So since you don't have to do all of them, this is a popular one to skip.
But this is going to be on the final, like a problem like this.
Yep, your final will look exactly like this, except each time we reload it, we have different numbers.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So if notes makes this manageable, then there's nothing wrong with this problem, especially in a term where you don't have a time limit. But it is pretty tricky. We have to do memorizing a simple interest formula. We have to remember that we're not plugging a 26 in here. It's a fraction of the year. We have to remember the two tricks to make it look like we want. And then we have to solve a one-step equation. So it's involved, but it's not terrible. One reason we do the oral exam portion of the final is because things with this many steps, people tend to make a careless mistake somewhere on the page. And so then rather than just mark you wrong, I can say, you had whatever, $9.83 as a careless error. Can you fix things? And you can show me your work in person. Other questions? We haven't done 32 yet this term. Should we do 32?
Sure.
Sure.
Is there one before 32 that people want to do also?
I was looking at 30.
30. Oh, okay. So for 30, remember the kind of Mad Lib games. Does that picture ring a bell? So blank is blank percent of blank. It's already filled in the blanks for us. So there were two ways to do this. We could translate or we could do a proportion. Oh, okay. So if you wanted to translate, oops. Oh, I already translated my is. I should not do that. Then the numbers stay numbers. Is becomes equals a percent we would riplop. And I'm not sure why I made it a 5 instead of a 6. I will fix that. And then what becomes y? So now we have one of those one-step equations. We're going to divide both sides by 0.46 because that's the opposite of times 0.46 stuck onto y. we get 272. And if that's how you like to do them, great. Other people do the proportion method. On one side, we put the percent and 100. On the other side, we put what comes after the word of. And then there's always something left over. So in this case, the percent is 46 over 100. The thing that comes after of what? So that's our unknown. And the number we haven't used yet is the 125.12. For the proportion people in the crowd, everyone okay with how I've set that up?
Yes.
Yeah, so the y times 46. And you get, of course, the same answer. So you don't have to know both ways. Pick one way that you like to do these kinds of percent sentences. Okay. "31" was the hard version of that. Should we do 31 also?
Sure.
Okay, so we want to put in blank is blank percent of blank. Unfortunately, the problem is trying to trick us. Let's draw the shape for here. So on one hand, we have 25% of the original price. And on the other hand, it says that after we take away that 25%, after it depreciates, the rest of the value of the car is 17,000. And to play this Mad Libs game where we fill in the blanks, we need to talk about one part of the pie. We can't take one number from this piece and one number from the other piece. That would be apples and oranges, talking about different things. So we need two numbers. Can we get two numbers that work on the green piece? Can we get two numbers that work on the blue piece?
Yes.
Which one can we do?
The blue piece.
The blue piece. We can get a dollar amount for the blue piece. I don't think we can. I don't think we know how much it depreciates.
No, you're right.
But we can get a percent for the green piece. So if this blue piece is 25%, what's the rest of the pie?
Yeah, I was looking at the blue piece on the generic percent sentence. That's the bigger
that
piece.
one. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, too many colors. So the whole thing is 100%. So if the blue piece is 25, the green is going to be everything else, 75. And now I am done with the 25. I have used it. I have no more use for it. And I can actually start my problem. The 75 is obviously the percent. Is my 17,000 the part or the whole?
It's after the first year, so it's part.
Yeah, we want to know the bigger amount that the car started with when we bought it and it left the lot. The thing we don't know is the whole price of the car. So just because of room, I've had enough setup that I don't want to try and do both translate and proportion on this slide. If you want me to do proportion on the next slide, I can. And there we go. So this also is a rival for the hardest problem on the test. Just like that simple interest one with the post-dated check, it didn't quite give us the right information. We had to work a little bit to get set up with a one-step equation. And in this one, it's a percent sentence, but they don't quite give us the right information. We had to work a bit before we could jump in and get started with our usual process. Any questions about this tricky one before I go back to the final page? Okay. What next?
Can we do 33?
33, sure. Actually, I'm going to put it on the next slide because I'm thinking people will want 32 also. So temperature, we had two formulas. One of them looks like that, and the other looks like that. There were different variants, but as we mentioned that one day in lecture, the top of each category is what most people like. So for these formulas, you put something in to the complicated side, and then the answer it spits out is all by itself. Right? That's how formulas work. So which formula applies to this situation?
Would it be the Celsius one? Because they
Um,
want to know Fahrenheit. Oh, no. Yeah.
left or right? I'm not sure what you mean by the Celsius one, because both formulas have Celsius somewhere in
Well, it's times C equals Fahrenheit minus
there. Yeah,
32.
so the one on the left, that is right. So for this one, we're going to say that the Celsius is 76, and then we add 32. So whatever that is, 1.8 times 76 plus 32. There we go. Someone is keeping something warm in the oven after cooking it or something like that. So in this case, this one is not what we wanted. If it asked the other direction where they gave us Fahrenheit, we would use that formula. If I pull up a different copy of the test, I think it flips back and forth. So yeah, sometimes you put in Fahrenheit and get out Celsius, and sometimes you put in Celsius and get out Fahrenheit. Okay, but I think we want 32 also, because we haven't done it. And it has a red herring. Oh no. So, Sally the Wonder Snail crawls this many yards in that many days. What percentage of a mile is the distance? What number don't we care about at all?
We don't care about the days.
The days, right? That's just to trick you into thinking it's a proportion when it's not. So that's our red herring. It's just there to distract the detective. So all we're looking for is 784 yards is how many miles written as a percent. So we could do this with a proportion a couple times. I'm going to do it as unit analysis. So we have yards. It's not a fraction. Put it over 1. I don't have memorized how many yards are in a mile, but I can go from yards to feet, and then I can go from feet to mile. Then my yards will cancel. My feet will cancel. I have only miles left. Life is happy. That's 3 feet in a yard. And 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Multiply across the top. Multiply across the bottom. And all that's left for our words is miles. So whatever that is. And we get 0.45, so 45% of a mile. questions on that one?
I was trying to write this and then I got confused. So where is the 780? It's times 3, not 0.3.
Yeah, that looked too much like a.
No, like I said, I just glanced up. Thank you.
Welcome. Should we do 35? We've only done one of those.
Yeah.
There's still a period after that. I thought I got rid of that after last class. It's not wrong, it just looks awkward. Okay, so this was something like Rob has 8 boxes of cookies. We're not sure how many are in each one. And Debbie has 5 boxes of cookies and 24 cookies on a plate. And we know that they have the same amount of cookies overall because it's equal. So how many cookies are in a box? So Crystal comes by and says, I will make this problem simpler. I will just take all 5 boxes of cookies from Debbie. And to be fair, I will also take 5 boxes of cookies from Rob. So Rob now has 3 boxes of cookies and a grudge. And Debbie has no boxes of cookies and a plate with 24 on it. We also have to remember that when we say 3W, that really means 3 times W, right? So W times 3 is 24. How do we get W by itself?
Divide by 3.
Divide by 3. So now W is by itself, 24 divided by 3. There were 8 cookies in a box. As always, you can plug things in. 8 times 8 is 56. 5 times 8. No, 8 times 8 is 64. 5 times 8 is 40 plus 24. Yeah, I'm sorry. My brain is dying as the morning goes on.
More coffee time.
It's only tea, it's not coffee. That's part of the issue. My wife is the coffee drinker for everyone in the family, except my older boy when he gets some. I used to think I didn't like coffee. And then, as an anniversary present several years ago, my wife and I took a trip to Portland, and they have a group there that does a coffee tasting tour. And you use the public transportation to go between, 8 different coffee shops in Portland trying things out. And each one has a little presentation set up showing part of the process of working with suppliers or drying or roasting or different ways of preparing it or so on. And we found out that actually I do like coffee. I just like a totally different way of preparing coffee and different kind of roast and so on than my wife does. And I don't like it that much. So is it worth the counter space to have a totally different supply of coffee and way of preparing it? No, we'll just let her have the coffee set up.
When it comes to coffee, the answer is always yes.
Then we should make this about coffee, that Rob had 8 bags of coffee. We don't know how many ounces they are. And Debbie had 5 bags of coffee and 24 ounces of coffee already. Okay. We made it through the end. We skipped some, of course, but do you think you can get whatever it was, 24 correct when you try it on your own?
I do.
Yeah. So take a practice test, grade yourself, see how you do. Remember, don't try and learn more than 1 or 2 things at a time. So if you miss 5 problems, then just work on like 2 of them several times and do those problems and reload it and do those problems and reload it. And when you finally get good at those 2, move on to more of the ones you miss. But trying to take 34 or 35 problems at once, except as a diagnostic or a final icing on the cake, is not usually helpful. Okay, I'm going to save this one that we talked about so much as a PDF, so that actually I should probably have the answer key for us all. Looks spaced out nice. Looks decent. Oh, okay. And we can be done. Any last questions?
How far in advance would you like us to send you our achievements so that you can have enough time to get them marked off before the end of the term?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
My deadline as an instructor is Tuesday of the week after finals week. So I have all weekend to, I will have a tremendous amount of stuff people will send me on Friday. That always happens. And then I will have all weekend and Monday to process it. And then I have until lunchtime Tuesday to actually double check and make sure everything is good. Because there will be students that are confused or busy or sick or something, and they have earned achievements, and I have to count up and say, oh, this person did 6 homeworks. They just didn't tell me. Like that.
Okay.
So yeah,
I'm going to
sooner
sign
is
off a
nicer.
few minutes early.
Oh, okay. Yeah, most people like turning things in a little early because then they can like look at their stars and be happy and say, aha, I have all these stars checked off.
Yeah, that was actually kind of my question, is how long, once we turn it in, will it take you to post the stars so we know if we're behind on something and we want to get a little bit better grade?
Oh, usually quickly, right? If you send them to me right before dinner, then it's not going to happen immediately.
Of course.
But, it doesn't take long.
Okay.
Have I shared what the grade book looks like from my side? So let me change my share. One advantage of there we go. Do you see a green and pink file in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one advantage of grading this way is I can see everyone's stuff for one student, right? Whoever is codename Ladybug, I can see all of this student stuff on one page. It's not like a spreadsheet grade book where I have to keep scrolling to find which column things are. So all I have to do is have your email open in one window and this open in another, and say, ah, so you've shared something with somebody. That's true. Oh, you've done one on the board. That's true, and so on. And then the website puts the stars in the next time you load it.
Oh, that's kind of a nice setup.
So
This is only something you see, right?
this is
Like
only
something
something
you-
I see. Yes and no. So
Like something.
if you want to learn to be a hacker, so let me share again.
I do
Then-
kind of.
So if you go to a web browser, then sometimes in your little menu, there's view page source. Developer tools would do it. But if Chrome doesn't have it anymore, then Control U is just the shortcut in almost every browser for view the page source. So this is what's happening for this page. And the achievement page is pretty complicated. Whereas if you look at a more simple page, so let's go to just the playgrounds. So if I go to the playgrounds and look at its page source, then there's some stuff at the top that's a little confusing with the menu, but then we see header style 1, it says math OER, paid line break, go to 70% the size, write the word playgrounds, right? And you can see what's happening here. Here's a table that has the reflections and explorations and gymnasia and issues in it. So there's that table, and you can see all of the source. But up at the top, so now we're back looking at the achievement page, then all of the things that that page references are links here. So if you want to see my style sheet, then you can see my style sheet, which you don't really care about. Or if you want to see the JavaScript that goes into this, then you can. And in this case, we scroll down a little bit, and here's the gradebook.javascript link. And so you could see that same thing we were looking at without the pretty color coding in my programming editor. So this is why none of your actual names appear in the drop-down menu, because it's public. Anyone that wanted to could look at this. So I am always surprised that if you go to, for example, the turn-in problems, then you could go to a turn-in problem page and look at the code. So I have cleverly written this so that you can't tell just by looking at the page source which is the right answer. But if you wanted to, you could spend a lot of time and try and decode my thing so that you could figure out which is the right answer from looking at the page source. But no one ever has, because it's too much work. More than you wanted to know. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to stop recording. Does anyone want to hang out and